So my name is George Hulme and I'm the current second team captain. I was fortunate enough to take over the role from chap to my furthest left a couple of years ago.
Hi, Mike Knowles. Everyone obviously knows me at the club for various reasons. Former second team captain and now team manager.
Rich Hoyland, exec member, and basically do all the legwork behind the scenes for the second team.
I think, in essence, it evolves around a bit of emotional intelligence, understanding the lads what you're with and working with and playing with, and understanding that, yes, it is second team rugby, but it's also a pathway into senior rugby. That can come from talent within, it can come through Colts and the sort of section which Rich certainly has a significant role in, but also talent from afar where people will join us from other clubs, and that involvement really is something where you can cut your teeth and showcase your talent, and then from the back of that, hopefully move up into the first team if that standard's good enough.
I'd also say as well, I think that we get the balance almost spot on between having a laugh and having a bit of fun, and from sort of half an hour before kick-off to the end of the game, it's fully about winning, and that balance is probably spot on for second team rugby.
I think, not just with the juniors, I think we've had a lot of, these two in particular have been quite good at getting external players in, and I think the environment that we've built by being those friendly faces within the twos has kept those players down here. We are working on a conveyor belt, so to speak, for the mini and juniors to then step up via dispensations, etc., etc. We've got a lad that's come up who's currently in the under 18s, but he's played for the twos quite a few times now, and he's a real good player. And we've got several more that are being lined up as we speak to come through into the senior fold for next season. I think, it is just that friendly face at the rugby club, or faces in this case.
I think it's probably a bit further than that, truth be told. I think we're certainly from an exec point of view, we've actually acknowledged that the game of rugby in itself, sort of get to the age of 16, 17, 18, there's plenty of options out there to do other things. And then that sort of has a significant knock-on effect to players still staying down at the club. There's university, there's work, there's other commitments out there what unfortunately take precedence. And therefore it's acknowledging that, getting on board with the RFU and dispensation, and trying to return that talent and showing them that their club rugby is just as important, if not more so important, going into that senior sort of fold, because I think there is certainly an element which has been acknowledged, not just from our club but other clubs, that there's a real gap and a gulf where players then unfortunately fall off a cliff. But it's, again, retaining those, identifying that talent, getting your arm around them, understanding that yes, it's not their number one priority, but if they are back on a weekend, there's something to do and there's something to, enjoy and have fun.
We had a fantastic season the final year before COVID as a second team, and we got promoted out of the Merit League below, and we won the Yorkshire Cup. And at that time, we were a little bit concerned about coming up into this league, truth be told. We decided the year before not to come up because we didn't think we had the strength in depth and talent. So to compare that season, which is my best second team season to date, with this season is difficult because we got promoted and we won a cup. But I would put this season, at the moment, the way that it's going, as a higher achievement than that season, because we are in the top division of second team rugby in the north of England. We can't go any higher, and at the moment we are almost nailed on to finish third, fourth or fifth in that league, which is going to take us into the playoffs and the finals at the end, with a chance of being the best second team, certainly in Yorkshire and across the north of England. So I would say that this season has probably been the best one that I've been involved in as a senior player down at Sandal.
Yeah, I think just to build on that again, it's down to that attitude that we've got. Not just the three of us; it's within the team. It's brilliant. There's that feel good factor playing for them. Being involved with it on whatever level. I think. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that sort of cliche, like rugby family. If you look at the sort of age of players what play, certainly in the two, you're talking about lads what 17, 18, talking about also people at the age of 46 who, Ben Brindley, what stalwart of the club, who won the Yorkshire Cup in 1999 and still going as strong as ever. And I think George touched on it. Fun is a huge factor in this and that success. And if you attain that, which I think we are doing, it just then transpires to everything else. It's sort of the root, shall we say, cause. It's probably not the right phrase, but it's that foundation. If you get that piece right, the rest follows, and it's sort of infectious, and it builds momentum. It helps me maintain that player availability on selection on a weekend is, sometimes really tough. Some difficult calls need to be made, but equally in the same token, we'll get a lot right off the back of it, and that's why I think we've seen certainly that success this year. And as the George referenced George at the weekend, it is a special season.
We've also, that just to add to that, we also see success that we've built within the twos in them going up into the first team. A lot of the current first team are actually second team players that have come through the pathway through one way or another. It's been.
If you look at the first team from the weekend, I think nearly the whole bench is made up of lads that made their senior debuts in the second team. Cam Nyan-Bega, Halley, Joannou, Jack Cherry, all from the weekend. We've seen loads of other examples through the last couple of years.
Like Cal Burden, he was last season. He was a stalwart for the second team. Will Hodgkiss came back last season for us. He started at the second team, did 2 or 3 games for us, and then he's gone up to the first team. The list goes on and on and on.
It does, to be fair. But again, I think it's reference to the point, again, what George has said. Everybody knows somebody what's played rugby.
Yeah.
So recruitment can be difficult and it can be tough, but if you're from that sort of background, you know a friend such as Suffy in the relationship which he had with Will Henshaw. Will Henshaw came down, at least had a couple of games with the twos, and now, look at him go.
I think it's a welcoming environment that we have. Again, it's not necessarily just down to us three. I think we embrace any lads into the fold of all abilities. We don't shut the door on anyone. The welcoming, they can come down, train with us, get involved. We want to try and put as much rugby on as we can for everyone. Sometimes when we have friendlies, we make sure that those lads that might not typically get into a match day squad for a league fixture where we're limited to 20, we make sure that they're involved. In fact, we don't just stick them on the bench, we make sure that they start and they get a good run at it.
I think also to kind of add to that is that pre-COVID, which you touched on then, we were getting to a point where we could have got a competitive third team out every week, and that's hopefully somewhere where we can get to next year, year after that. But at the moment we've got a first team which should be a really strong team in that National 3 League, what was. We've got a second team that's competing in the highest division of second team rugby, and if we can get a third team out playing twice a month, etc., whatever it looks like, there is a great environment for whatever standard of rugby that you are, and that's probably, certainly from a top end perspective in terms of talent, where else would you rather be? A second team that is seriously competitive, playing good rugby, a first team that has got high aspirations, and a third team which is hopefully something that we can really kick on with.
Again, that can be sort of a difficult conversation, and people call it a tough conversation. I just see it as being honest, and I think as long as you're honest with people and give them that time of day and reasoning behind it, yes, you're going to suffer with probably red mist and disappointment, but equally in the same token, if there's logic behind it, generally that sort of comes through. I think being able to listen and understand those frustrations, because I've sort of been there myself, and I really have. I think probably most of us at the club have had that disappointment, but equally in the same token, we go out to bat for those players, but feeding back on those players and letting them know actually how they performed, and be it good, bad or ugly, that it's important that you do that, because it helps with that sort of those fundamentals of the side, and it also helps with getting the best out of each and every person what comes down. I think that's probably my standpoint, and that understanding that emotional intelligence piece. But George is probably slightly different, but equally as effective.
As the captain, first and foremost, I look at it as it's a massive plus. If we have a bloody good player coming down and playing a level of rugby that they would see themselves that they shouldn't be playing at, so we've got to love the fact that as a second team we get that, and I think that's one thing that we do very well. In terms of trying to move it forward, I think certainly in the last couple of years, as I've sort of come into being the captain, the feedback from second team games to first team games, Wico, Edler, etc., is better than it ever has been, and that's helped with. I think we're on 4 or 5 of the second team games being videoed, so that feedback actually has meaning. So for that individual, they can prove a point in the second team. They're at a place where they feel loved, they are loved. That's probably a big thing, I think.
I think just to build on both those points, those players that we've brought down into the second team, if that's the right word, we've given them something to play for. It's not just been a game of rugby where they're the show pony. It's actually a hard, competitive bit of rugby for them. We're fighting at the top of our league at the moment. We're pushing for those playoff positions. These lads get it. It's not just a second team and a first team. It's a whole senior squad that's working together to try and achieve our goals.
If you put it into perspective and simply done, in the league in which the twos are playing at right now, the teams which we're competing against are like Wharfdale, their first team, and in the league above our first team. So the talent in which they're in their second team is probably straight off the training paddock.
I think standout is a difficult one because there's lots of lads that do different things, but the one player that people look for on the team sheet, the one player that opposition teams talk about will be Scott Seckham. Dominant in defence, our leading try scorer this year, always gets over the gain line. One that, we're playing Sheffield this weekend, and their coach has coached his team to try and defend Scott. So that would probably be or certainly my standout player.
Most improved, I would say Charlie Beanie. We saw him get an award at the end of the last season. He's really stepped up, and I had a chat with him early in the season. I said he needs to start taking over the mantle of pack leader and vice captain, second to George, and he has done. He's certainly up there with the amount of appearances for the twos, and it gets recognised, his efforts in training, so much so that he's earned himself a first team shirt, and he's calling him a fringe player for the ones isn't really fair on him, I don't think, because I think he's a bit more than that. I think it is tough in the first team, and he is punching at that level now. And it's great to see him come on the way that he has done the last 2-3 seasons.
And then sort of touch on the player what's being, not the word drop, but come down from the first team back into the second. Will Hodgkiss, came down, sort of played with the twos, played his hand, some terrific carries, set piece, went up into the ones, probably wasn't quite at the mark on a fitness standpoint. Again, came back down to the twos, worked his absolute chuff off. And now, probably the first name on their team sheet is
Quality.
Yeah, it's quality. It's probably attitude. And attitude probably is something what should be a free and it should be a given. But like coming back from skiing a day early to play at the weekend for York, but equally then making himself available for the second team game against Sheffield. Like he's just come on leaps and bounds and grown so much into that first team shirt that they'd probably be lost without him.
I think, and that example you gave there of him being prepared to go from the ones and freely back down into the twos just shows how credible that link is between the ones and twos now. He's happy to do that and he's happy to be part of that. He gets it. It.
Ooh, second.
Brad Kittrick.
Jack O'Hara.
Baz, the Prince.
Used to be Mike Knowles, probably still is Mike Knowles.
Kingy. Kingy.
Hoyland.
What a question. Yeah. Joe Allett.
I think that's an unfair question because there's an obvious answer there. Set me up. Yeah, okay, got it. Got that one. Okay.